Welcome. My name is Tino, and in this little video I'm going to explain to you the rules and the game flow of the most famous variation of poker called No Limit Texas Holdem. You can play this game with up to 10 people, but as you can see I have prepared a setup with 5 players. In the beginning, every player gets dealt 2 cards, only known to the specific player. Make sure it stays this way. After that, there will be up to 5 community cards. Those cards will be dealt face up. First there will be 3 cards, the so-called flop, then there will be the 4th card, the so-called turn, and then there will be the last card, the river card. And in between we have 4 betting rounds, meaning those are the opportunities where you actually can make sure that the pot gets bigger and bigger by placing some bets. Now, you win in poker in 2 different ways. You either make sure that everybody else drops out of the game, or you make sure that you have the best 5-card combination. And when I say 5-card combination, it means you can either take both of your cards and pick 3 of the so-called community cards, or you just decide to take 1 of your starting cards and pick 4 of those community cards, or you can just take all the 5 community cards, which of course means that everybody else at the table will at least have the same 5-card combinations. I will get back to the 5-card combinations at the end of the video, so stay tuned. Now, let's put some flesh to the bones of COE by playing one demo round. Now, first of all, as you can see, we have a so-called dealer button. This is the person that is essentially dealing the cards. If you go to a casino, or like in this setup, I'm the dealer. Next to the dealer, left to the dealers to be precise, you have the small blind, and next to the small blind, you always have the big blinds. Those are the so-called forced bet. This is the reason why we start playing in first place. The big blind is always twice as much as a small blind, and after each hand of poker, those 3 positions move clockwise to make sure that everybody is at the dealer is in the small blind and the big blind equally often. So it should be a fair game, right? That being said, let's deal the first cards. And now I'm going to do something that you hopefully never do in a casino or see in a casino. Because that would be quite strange. I'm going to reveal the cards so that you have a better understanding of what is going on here. Now, the first person that now has to make a decision is the person left to the big blind. Now let's see what this player has. As you can see, this player has 2 amazing cards, aces, the best possible starting hand. Now this person can do essentially 3 things. He or she could say, I drop out of the game and just fold, gives the cards back to the dealer, lean back and observe what is going to happen. Never going to happen with aces, right? The second option is I can just match the last bet. The last bet in this case is 100, is the big blind. But that's not enough, of course, when you have such a strong starting hand. So this person probably goes with option number 3, which is I increase the size and I raise it up. If you want to raise it up, it's at least not almost, but always twice as the big blind. So in this case, at least 200. Keep in mind, it's called no limit, so you can make it 300, 400, or you can bet all your chips and put them into the middle of the table. In this case, let's say this person decides to increase the size of the pot by raising it up to 300. Now, the next player to the left of the person with aces has to make a decision. As you can see, a deuce and a 7, actually the worst starting hand in Texas No Limit Hold'em. The person could do the same options. The person could say, I drop out of the game, give back the cards, lean back and observe what's going to happen. The person could say, I want to stay in the game for the minimum amount possible. In this case, it would be matching the last bet. Last bet was 300. So if the person wants to play those cards for whatever reason, this person has to bring at least a 300. Of course, this person could also raise. If the person wants to make it a raise, he or she has to make it at least twice the last bet. In this case, it's 600. Now, of course, this person folds, such a crappy hand, and we move on to the next player who has actually a 5 and a 6 of spades. Actually a nice hand, and the same options like the last player. You either drop out of the game, you call the 300, or you raise it up to at least 600 or more than 600 because it's called no limit. Now this person just decides, hey, I want to stay in the pot, I want to see the first community cards, and I bring in the 300, and now the small blind has his or her turn. Small blind has a jack and a 3, pretty bad card, really disconnected. Same options, but this person decides to just drop out of the game. Keep in mind, you're not getting back your small blind, right? They stay in the pot. And then finally, the big blind has to make a choice. King and a queen, good enough to stay in the game. Staying in the game means at least matching the latest bet, this 300, given that 100 is already in the pot. Because it was a big blind posted by the big blind beforehand. This person only has to bring 200 if he or she wants to stay in the game, or of course a person could raise it up to at least 600 or more, as we already spoke about. Let's say this person calls, and that ends the first betting round. So you see, 3 players survived, so to speak, the first betting round. The pot now has increased to a size of 950. 3 players in the game, and we are going to deal the first 3 community cards. And here we go. We have a deuce, we have a 4, both in spades, and we have a queen in diamonds. And now we open the second betting round. And the second betting round and every other betting round that is coming after the second betting round, so the third or the fourth one, always follow the same procedure. They always start with the first person that is left in the game, left to the dealer button. In our case, the big blind. Now the big blind has the following options. Technically, they could, the person could say, I'm dropping out of the game, I give back the cards, but this is not really necessary because nobody has brought a bet, placed a bet up in this betting round so far. That means we have a new option available, namely checking. Checking means you just pass on to the next player and you see what happens, but you stay in the game without having invested anything. Of course, this person could say, I want to make a bet. Whenever you want to make a bet, it's always at least a big blind. Of course, you can make it 2 big blinds, 5 big blinds, whatever you want, up to the maximum, because it's called no limit. Now, let's say this person checks, because he or she wants to see what the person who raised it up before the flop really did. Now, this person looks at the flop, looks at the card, evaluates, and comes up with a choice. And let's say this person don't like checking, but instead wants to build the pot and bets, let's say 600. And now the action moves on to the next player sitting at the dealer button, and this person of course has to make a choice as well. Either fold your cards, drop out of the game, or bring at least a 600 or raise it up to 1200. In this case, the person looks at his or her cards, sees, hey, I have a 4 spades, and if there's a 3, I already make a great hand, or if a spade comes on the turn, I make a flush. And of course, I want to stay in the game for the minimum amount possible, and I'm getting a good price, bringing the 600. That's a call again. And now the final choice comes from the big blind, who in this case decides to make it a call as well, 600. And this, as you can see, ends the second betting round as well. Now the pot now is already 2,000. 400, 500, 600, 700, 2,750. So you see what started with 50 and 100 suddenly is almost 3,000 in size. And now you see the turn card, the 4th community card. In our case, an ace of hearts. We repeat what we have seen in the last betting round. In this case, the player with the king and the queen checks to the player with the aces. And of course, this person likes what he or she sees because now they have trip aces and they want to make a large bet, in this case 2,000. The player sitting here with a 5-6 might not like this card for a couple of reasons, but feels, hey, I'm still getting a good price and I want to stay in the game. I pay the 2,000, and then we move on with a big blind who now feels, well, with this ace, a little chance to improve, I'm not investing any further money, and I just give back the cards to the dealer, and we see the final card, the so-called river card, and this is the 3 of spades. Now, in case you're wondering why whenever I deal the community cards, right before I deal them, I quote-unquote burn one card, put one card away, this is simply an old tradition from poker in case some cards might be scratched. And I feel keeping some tradition is a good thing. There are no more cards coming. We have 2 players still in the game. And again, we start with the first player sitting to the left of the dealer button. In our case, it's a player with the aces who has to make a choice now. For obvious reasons, with this third spade coming in, this person might not like what he or she sees here and decides to check. And now the decision is on to the player with the 5-6, who is pretty happy for obvious reasons, and now decides to make a large bet, say a bet of 4,000, and now it's a final decision that has to be made by the player with the aces. If this person decides, well, I want to see and find out if my hand is still good enough, if I win, this person has to bring the 4,000 and call. Of course, this person could raise, very unlikely given the final card, or this person could say, well, I don't want to invest the further 4,000 and pay this player probably off. I just give back the cards, and then we probably never find out what this person had. So you see, there are two ways of winning. You either make sure you have the best 5-card combination, or you make sure everybody else drops out of the game. Talking about 5-card combinations, I'm now going to show you a hand ranking chart where you see the 10 different hand combinations that you can build in poker. You probably already know the most famous one, the Royal Flush. However, unless you are James Bond, getting a Royal Flush is very, very unlikely. In addition to that, I also will put down a link into the description where you can actually download a hand ranking chart PDF so that you can take it with you if you ever go to a casino or want to play with some friends. That being said, as you can see, the game itself is very simple, but as the saying goes, it's very hard to master. Nonetheless, it's tons of fun. Talking about fun, if you ever are looking for maybe a fun activity to really boost team spirit and strengthen your team in a virtual environment, check out this video, because I also offer team poker events where I use the team poker concept so that you play in little teams against each other, which is tons of fun. And believe me when I tell you, there's a lot to be learned for business at the poker table. That being said, now go out, play a couple of hands of poker, and if you have any other questions, just post them in the comment. I get straight back to you. Have a great day and good luck at the tables.